1 in 6 retirees are going back to work. The headlines will tell you it's because they ran out of money, but that's not what the data actually shows. What it shows is something a lot more interesting and a lot more important if you're approaching retirement yourself. I'm Nico, and for 16 years, I've helped families think more clearly about retirement. There's a trend right now that's getting talked about under a few different names. Unretirement, boomerang retirement, the soft retirement, whatever you call it, the basic shape of it is this. People who retired in the last 5 or 6 years are coming back to work. Not all of them, but enough to make it a real movement. The instinct when you read a headline like that is to assume it's a story about failure. The market dropped, or their plan didn't work, or they ran out of money. That's the narrative, and it's a powerful one because it plays to the single biggest fear pre-retirees have, which is running out of money in retirement. But here's what surveys are actually showing. The majority of people going back to work in retirement aren't going back because they have to. They're going back because they want to. They miss the structure. They miss the people. They miss the feeling of being useful. They retired and they got the trip and then the rest and then the slower mornings, and then somewhere around month 9 or month 18, they started asking themselves a question they didn't expect to ask. What now? This is the part of retirement nobody briefs you on. The financial part has 1,000 books written about it. The emotional and the identity part, almost nothing. And it turns out for a lot of people, the hardest part of retirement isn't running out of money, it's running out of meaning. For 30 or 40 years, your week was structured. There was a place you had to be, people who needed something from you, a reason to put real clothes on in the morning. And then one day, all of that stops, and some people thrive in that. They've got grandkids and travel plans and projects they've been saving up for years. Other people, especially high achievers, the people who built careers they actually cared about, for them, the silence is deafening. So they go back. Sometimes to the same field, sometimes consulting, sometimes a board seat, sometimes a part-time thing that has nothing to do with what they used to do. Maybe they're running a coffee shop or teaching or mentoring young professionals. The form varies. The pattern, though, is the same. They retired from a job, but not from being useful. Here's why I'm telling you this. If you're 5 or 10 years out from retirement, the plan you build now needs to account for the possibility that you'll want to go back to work in some version of retirement. Here's why I'm telling you this if you're within 5 or 10 years from retirement. The plan you build now needs to account for the possibility that you'll want to work some version of part-time in retirement. And most plans don't do that. Most plans assume a clean break, no job tomorrow. Income from portfolios and Social Security and maybe a pension, the math is built around that in a binary manner. But if there's a reasonable chance you'll be working 15 hours a week at 68 because you want to, that changes the math in ways that most people don't think about. It changes when you should claim Social Security. It changes your tax bracket in your 60s, which changes whether you should be doing Roth conversions now or maybe later. It changes how aggressively your portfolio needs to be working in those early retirement years. And it changes your healthcare situation depending on whether the work comes with benefits. A plan that doesn't account for the possibility of a soft retirement is a plan that's going to need to be redesigned the moment you decide you want to teach a class at a community college. And redesigning a plan in motion is a lot harder than building one with opportunity and optionality from the start. Here's the way we think about this at Momentum Wealth. Purpose decides placement. Before you decide where your money goes, what accounts, what investments, what timing, you have to decide what your money is for. And what it's for includes what you actually want to be doing with your time in your 60s and 70s. If purpose includes some form of meaningful work, the plan should be built to make that work financially optional, not financially necessary. That distinction is everything. Working in retirement because you want to is one of the most fulfilling chapters of a person's life. Working in retirement because you have to, because the plan didn't hold up, is a completely different experience. Same activity, opposite feeling. The job of a good plan isn't to predict whether you'll go back to work. The job of a good plan is to make sure that whichever path you take, you took it by choice. So if you're 5 to 10 years from retirement and any of this is hitting close to home, if you suspect you might be one of those people who doesn't actually want to stop completely, 3 things to do this year. First, name it out loud. Ideally to your spouse. The number of couples I sit with where one of them has been quietly planning to keep working and the other one has been quietly planning to travel for a year and they've never said it to each other would surprise you. So get clear on what you actually want. Number 2, pressure test your plan against both scenarios. What does the math look like if you want to work 15 hours a week from 65 to 72? What does it look like if you fully retire at 62? If your plan only works in one of those scenarios, you don't have a plan, you have a single path bet. Third, and this is the one most people skip, make sure the work you might do is actually structured to add to your life, not just your bank account. Working in retirement should be additive. If it's draining, it's the wrong work. The whole point of having choices is to use it. At Momentum Wealth, this kind of question is exactly what the first stage of our Retire Forward process is designed to service. We call it belief. Most of the industry skips this part and goes straight to numbers, but the numbers don't mean anything until you know what they're for. If you'd like to see what the conversation looks like, we offer a written report called the Retire Forward Readiness Assessment. 10 pages that map out where your plan is solid and where it has gaps. Links in the description if you want to take a look. But whether you do that with us or not, get clear on what you want. And do that before you get clear on the money. I'm Nico. Thanks for watching. Always forward.